Greetings and salutations. Welcome to all. It's David DeFord, your humble correspondent, owner of DeFord Insurance Group, and we're doing it live with another live training here in the YouTube channel. Specifically, our topic today we're discussing is how to write 20 policies weekly and scaling that business specifically in the Medicare sales business. So let me give you a little rundown of what to expect for today's topic because it's a very important one. As some of you guys know, we at DeFord Insurance Group put a lot more emphasis on the Medicare market with the socio-economic trends with the boomers and all retiring. The Medicare market, really anything senior driven, but the Medicare market is becoming more and more lucrative and will be for many years to come. And I'm wanting to put more content out there, as you can see right now, that talks about Medicare and how to build a substantially strong business around it. So what we're going to talk about today, first of all, for the sake of the newcomers, people maybe just getting into the insurance business that don't know a lot about Medicare, we're going to start with kind of a basic Medicare 101, how the business works, how Medicare sales is like, how lead generation works, and kind of the advantages to selling Medicare, and especially with inflation rearing its ugly head in combination with the trend of boomers retiring being your friend. You're going to find ample reason why some part or effort, or maybe even all of your effort in the Medicare space is quite a good idea. And then we're going to get into some specifics on what our people at DeFord Insurance Group, our agents, are doing right now that is working to scale their business, some up to 15 to 20 policies weekly or more. So we're going to talk about the fundamentals of how to write more Medicare business, what we're doing at DeFord Insurance Group to making that a reality. And then last but not least, a special segment that I always like to make sure we talk about in the context of scaling. When it comes to Medicare, it's not just about hunting and finding the business like it very much is in final expense and closing it. In Medicare, it's a bit different, even though it's important in final expense and really all insurance, but it's especially important being in Medicare. You have to also service and retain the business. You have to be in a position, guys, to keep what you find, keep it on the books, because that's how you ultimately get paid a lot of money in the Medicare space, is keeping the business that you close. And that means you've got to still keep top quality service in check and in place if you hope to have success long-term in the Medicare business. Without a strategy, as you scale, to also scale the effectiveness of your servicing, you're going to find a lot of your business risks falling off the books. And this business of passive income and Medicare will not be as lucrative as you'd like it to be. So we're going to talk at length about that as well. We'll end our call, of course, with questions along the way. I'll kind of scan the chat as I'm doing my talk here. If there's relevant questions directly to the point being made, I'll address them. If not, typically I save addressing comments from the crowd to the end. John Wayne, hello. Richard, hey, hey. Hey, Tammin, aloha. How's Hawaii? Hopefully it's nice over there. Rocked, how you doing? Thanks for being here. And Kevin, nice to see you again, man. So let's get started. So again, let's start from the basics. I think it serves everybody well to talk about what Medicare sales is and the advantage, and I think more obvious as time progresses, the advantage of selling and specializing even in the Medicare space. So first of all, when we say Medicare sales, we don't actually sell them Medicare, right? All seniors start Medicare when they turn 65 or when they're on disability for 2 years because maybe earlier in life they got hurt, unable to work, they filed for disability, 24 months has passed, and now they've started disability, and now they have Medicare 2 months after, or 2 years after the effective date of when the disability started. Exception is somebody who starts, who has ESRD, end-stage renal disease, they start Medicare right away. But the point is that the event of starting Medicare is really the trigger point here to get into the sale of a supplemental Medicare policy. And there's really two types of Medicare plans out there for sale. Most people conflate or confuse them. Many people just call them Medicare supplements, meaning Medicare Advantage. But those are the two types of plans that are out there available. One is growing more in popularity, where we at DeFord Insurance Group focus on, and likely probably you will too, and that's the Medicare Advantage side of things. But let me first start off with Medicare supplements. So in a nutshell, Medicare supplements just supplement what Medicare doesn't pay for. So there's a 20% uncapped amount on the Part B side, which is essentially like doctor's bills, that kind of thing. That's uncovered, it's uncapped. So if you go in for a heart attack and it's a huge bill, you're going to pay 20% of that, even if it's like a six-figure bill. What a Medicare supplement's designed to do is to pay for that, largely that portion, via a regular premium that the client would pay. And the client's responsible for very little of out-of-pocket expenses. I would call the Medicare supplement a Cadillac plan. It really is, in my opinion, one of the best plans that's out there. Wherever Medicare is accepted, as long as you have a supplement, you're admitted to whatever hospital that is. They claims are very easy. They just rubber stamp. As long as Medicare pays it, they supplement the rest of it. You do have to get a Medicare drug prescription plan to go along with that. But that is kind of the traditional supplement that's always been out there in some form or fashion. It's changed over the years, like Plan F, a type of supplement, is gone now. Mostly what's sold are Plan Gs, Plan Ns, that kind of thing. But a supplement does just that. Now, the upside to that is the quality coverage. The downside is there's a higher premium that escalates in price every single year. More on that in a second. With Medicare Advantage, all a Medicare Advantage plan, the best way to think about a Medicare, and I'll call it Advantage plan for short a lot of times, or MA plan. An MA plan is the best way to think about it is it's just like an employer-based health insurance plan. You have co-pays, you've got the other aspects that you would normally see in a plan, co-pays, deductibles, that's what I was thinking, out-of-pockets, requirements to meet. And but along with these plans, in many cases, there's no premiums that the recipient has to pay. It used to be a couple of years back that the Medicare Advantage policyholders would have to pay some kind of premium every single month to keep their plans. But the way the policies have evolved is that for the most part, the client pays nothing out of pocket. Okay, now that's month to month. They certainly do when they go to the hospital. I mean, they're going to get some kind of expense paid somewhere. So it's not like that's free at all. There's definitely some expense to it. That's why technically agents call it a zero premium plan, because it's not truly free. The person has had to pay into it for years through FICA, Social Security, all that Medicare type of tax that's been going on for years and years and years. The advantage of that is it's less expensive, sometimes no expense than a Medicare supplement. Also, a lot of these plans are starting to enrich the plan, just a standard plan with more benefits. We see plans out there that give away grocery cards in order to incentivize them to purchase a plan with them, or give them extra freebies, benefits, silver sneakers, etc. Right? The list goes on, and there's different kinds out there for that. Where we see the most interest and growth in the business really is on the Medicare Advantage side. If you look at the sales figures, we've seen the growth at a much higher percentage rate than Medicare supplements, so much so that most likely in the next couple of years, I don't know the exact numbers, you're going to see more people with Medicare Advantage plans than Medicare supplement plans. So that's where the trend is as well in the Medicare space. That is where the interest is. And frankly, that's why the reasons at the Ford Insurance Group, we focus on that particular type of product because of the interest, because there's no premium, there's no underwriting whatsoever. We'll kind of get into this a little bit more. A couple of questions I know people are asking. Can you sell, when can you sell this plan? Because a lot of people think you can only buy a Medicare plan at the end of the year. Therefore, a lot of agents think, well, this is just a couple of months out of the year. We can't sell it any other time. That's wrong. With Medicare supplements, if the client can medically qualify, then they can buy it any time of the year. But with a Medicare Advantage plan, if they can qualify for what's called a special election period, they can qualify off calendar. So they don't have to wait for what's called annual election period, which is at the end of the year, or open enrollment period, which is the first 3 months of the year. They can qualify for special election period. There's different ones out there. We teach agents how to uncover these. And as long as they're qualified for it, then you can flip their plans if it makes sense to help them out that much better anytime during the year, effectively turning the Medicare business into an all year-round opportunity to sell a policy. So it's not something that you're relegated to just 2 months or 5 months out of the year if you add an open enrollment. Can you sell it over the phone or in person? The answer is absolutely yes. The Medicare business has been interesting in that the big push over the last couple of years has been to consolidate the business from a call center standpoint in order to acquire clients, preferably that way. A lot of the carrier money went towards call centers, albeit agents have always sold face-to-face, with a few of them selling over the phone. That trend's starting to grow more, especially with post-COVID now, and there's more of this accepted practice of, a remote type of strategy in selling insurance, certainly in the Medicare space. But what's unique about it is a lot of people who have bought Medicare plans have bought over the phone. Interestingly enough, there's been a big fallout with these call centers in that they haven't been able to retain the business as well as they thought they would. Why? Because, again, people do business with agents, in my opinion. They want help. They want a professional to assist with them. And an agent does a better job of that than some person in the call center that's probably just doing it for temporary work and not taking it as serious as like a business. So we're seeing some shifts in the business in the Medicare space to push money back towards the agent. I have an agent that's been allotted $30,000 this year from one carrier who only does some of his business with, one single carrier, because he writes a lot of business. It's extremely profitable for the carrier, and they're underwriting his lead budget because he writes so much business. And it's not just this one guy. Several of our guys have these different arrangements. And we don't see that in the final expense world or the life world nearly as much. But you can sell it over the phone as well. My friend in the business, Ethan Glidewell at Medicare Millennials, does this as well. He's been telesales for a while. He transitioned from face-to-face, is doing very well at it, knows a lot about it experientially. We've got some other agents in our agency doing the same. Not as many as in the final expense space, but I anticipate that's just going to grow over time that much more. So the one thing I'm going to round out here, again, explaining on the Medicare side before we get into the scaling side of the thing, is, again, why would you want to sell, in our case, what we focus on at DeFord Insurance Group, Medicare Advantage. I'm going to give you a couple of high points here because I want you to see the immediate reason why, and I want you to see the long-term reason why when it comes to your income and when it comes to the health of the economy and what impacts that may have on the insurance business, and why Medicare, I think, will be very safe from any potential economic issues. If they happen, don't know if they will. I'm not a predictor, but again, better be safe than sorry and think through this. The big thing, number one here, that you're going to see a difference from selling final expense or some life insurance product is there's no premiums. With a Medicare Advantage plan, most of the plans don't have a premium. So guess what you don't have to do, guys? You don't have to ask for bank accounts. You don't have to take their money anymore. That's a wonderful thing. What we all want to sell something that I don't have to take anybody's money for, as long as I'm paid well enough. Yeah, as long as there's a commission. And there is a commission. You may be wondering, well, if I can't take money from someone, how do I get paid a commission? Well, the carriers pay the commission because it's kind of baked into the cake to what they get paid to basically operate these Medicare plans instead of original Medicare operating it. So don't worry, you're going to get paid. But that means you don't have to worry about fighting for the checking account or getting the banking information or people trying to justify the expense of it. It's essentially free to the client in the form of zero premiums. All right. There's no health underwriting. So when we say no health underwriting, that means explicitly you don't have to qualify this client like you would for life insurance or final expense or mortgage protection. You do not have to worry about being in the position, does this client qualify medically for this Medicare Advantage plan if they're mentally sound and they can sign off on the application digitally, electronically, verbally, or via text or old-fashioned wet ink, then they are approved for policy, assuming they meet the parameters of the special election period, or if it's AEP, OEP, or when they're turning 65 and starting Medicare. Again, throwing a lot out here, but the point is, with most of our life insurance products, right, we got to worry, is this thing going to actually get approved? You don't have to worry about that with Medicare Advantage. It's a tangible good. Now, this is the big difference between health insurance and life insurance. And you haven't seen a lot of this really over the past, I would say, 10 years since Obamacare came into power. It upended the private health insurance market. But before that, there were a lot of agents that loved selling health insurance because health insurance products were easier to sell. You had to have health insurance. Your prospects could conceptualize the need of them that much more because they don't want to end up in the hospital and pay a gargantuan bill to the health insurance or health providers, right? So most people understand there's a need for health insurance. They don't need to be sold on needing it. They already know they need it. And likewise, when people start Medicare, they know they want good health, and they know they need it that much more because they're older. Their health usually isn't that good. They care that much more about having good health insurance. So it's an easier product to pitch. It's an easier product to get to people to listen to you. Again, go to any Hardee's or, I don't know, In-N-Out Burgers in the morning and sit down see a bunch of old people. They're probably complaining about their Medicare. Some of them are. Some may be happy, but a lot of people aren't happy. I need dentures and this plan sucks. It's not paying enough money, right? So people are always wanting better. They want more benefits. And they're likely to listen to somebody who's competent sounding on the phone or in person, show them what options may be available. Not a guarantee, but may be available. So that means more appointments set, more appointments kept. I've seen from agents transitioning from final expense to Medicare. Like I have one guy locally here, he sold 45% of his direct mail leads a Medicare Advantage plan. That's an incredible conversion rate. And like he would book 11 appointments, sit down with 10, and then write like 10 policies. Like it was just, and he was really good at final expense, but the numbers weren't nearly that good. So people, it just tends to be easier to use the dreaded E word than a lot of life insurance. So just to kind of, again, compare and contrast, a lot of you guys and gals are in the life space. Medicare is different. People want this. And you don't have to take their money because there's none to take. You don't have to health underwrite them, right? So things that we all can appreciate. And I think the big thing here, 2 more points here until we get to the scaling side of the thing. The thing about this business that's going to be more impactful as we go into, I just saw some report on inflation being wildly underestimated by the Fed person, Yellen, I think. We walk into the, restaurants and grocery stores and everywhere, prices are going up. Inflation is a real problem. And it could have potential impacts for everything economically where there's a price to be paid. It's of my persuasion, because we're dealing with a product that has no price, no premium paid monthly, and likewise we're dealing with a client that knows they desperately need to have health insurance. And this is coming off of a pandemic where, whether your feelings on this are yay or nay, there's more of an awareness about being prepared and having good coverage in place. God forbid some pandemic happens and hurts and causes issues. It's important to have good health insurance in place. And I think these 2 factors, with inflation coming down the pike, make this product one of those that I don't think there's anything that's recession immune, but I would say it's recession resistant. I don't see how rising prices are going to impact a senior making a different change on which plans are going to get, because there's no essentially demand pricing issue. Those aren't inflating. And people at that age need health insurance. It's not a question of if I should have it, it's what kind should I have, right? So this is powerful. Again, I don't know what to expect economically. I think anything in the senior market is going to be fine. I'm more concerned about the mortgage protection side, the under 65 side, where life insurance may be viewed as more discretionary. I think the senior market will be fine. It was during the Great Recession, and we were getting a lot of this headwind back then. But for the Medicare side, to me, that's the safest place to be, because demand's not going to change. Because the last point here with Medicare is you have a trend economically of boomers retiring every day at about 10 to 13,000 daily for the next 10 years. Okay, when you turn 65, you start Medicare right away, and we're not even counting the people who are disabled and starting Medicare because they've reached past 24 months of their disability being effective. And all of these people are going to start Medicare. All these people know, because they watch TV all the time, they get the junk mail, they get all sorts of stuff. They know Medicare alone isn't enough, so they're pre-programmed to want to seek out a better option than just what we call original Medicare. So, and again, there's this rising tide of prospects. The age of the average person in America is getting older because so many people are hitting boomer age, 65 plus. And that means more agents are needed to help these people. And the call center side of the business has just really not done what it was supposed to do in creating quality business. And really, that's why agents exist. And that's why this opportunity is so fundamentally awesome. And the last thing here, I guess there's a second last thing, is that unlike life business, the Medicare side of the business is a passive source of income. Medicare Advantage, for example, residual income pays, and I'm giving you ballparks, about $290 a year for life. So if you write a deal today, you get paid effectively what it's worth. So if it starts in July, half the year is gone, so you'd get paid up front half of that commission if it's a replacement Medicare plan. And then each preceding year, you get paid $290, give or take. So as long as you keep them on the books, you still get paid. It works out as earned about $24 and change, which may not sound like a lot to you every month. $24, who cares? Well, what if you have 1,000 clients on the books? There are agents who do that in a year or 2 years, conservatively 3 to 5. That's $24,000 in passive income every month for life. Now, people die, people change plans, people move, but you're going to get referrals. You're going to do a good job of servicing the people, so you're going to retain them maximally, right? So it's not like completely, I never have to do anything ever again, passive work. But what happens is if you do a good job of putting a service strategy in place, you should be keeping a good percentage of these people. Definitely more than 80%. I think it should be closer to the 90% personally. So bottom line, that's the benefit of this business of Medicare. We're at, I kind of think, what I call the perfect storm. I had an agent I talked to yesterday or today. She said, Dave, I know I can tell you never get political. You're always down the middle. You try to keep it where you're not one way or the other, but truly tell me, what is the best opportunity to this business? And I said, number one is Medicare, bottom line. The long-term approach of this business in the next 10 years, it's the perfect storm. Tons of prospects coming in, not enough agents to help them, that care about quality of interaction with the agent, that will give you the opportunity to build that passive income we've all heard about for years, mostly through things like real estate, but now through insurance. And the sooner you get started on getting into this business and spending time to master it, to get good, to help people that you're servicing, I think the sky's the limit. Whether it's just personal production or building an agency, doing what you want, having a business with lucrative income plus a lifestyle associated with it is a real reality in the Medicare space, in my opinion, the Medicare Advantage space, although either work fine. And that's why at DeFord Insurance Group, we talk a lot about Medicare, because that's where the next 5 to 10 years, where the real strength of this business is going to lie. And for us, what we do is we try to get our guys and gals started in final expense in most cases, because it pays a little better up front, and then slowly integrate them in the Medicare over the first 6 to 12 months. Whether they do some or all of their business with Medicare is fine. Usually it's a gradual transition. But developing a secondary stream of income to develop a passive stream of income is incredibly powerful, and why I'm doing this business. So Alexander, real quick in the chat, go to Medicare Millennials. Just put it into YouTube. You'll find Ethan's information. TCPA is getting stricter with the call centers. Good news. 100%, Tim. Yeah. And so what Tim's talking about here is there's some, I guess you could say, compliance issues going on at the top level with CMS, coming up with kind of some guidance on how to interact with all the call center business going on, the complaints that have been lodged to, I think, CMS, I don't know exactly which regulatory body it is, it's tripled in 1 year. And it's because so much Medicare business now is done with these Joe Namath commercials. I saw the Dynamite guy doing a commercial. William Shatner, they pulled his 90-year-old self out and filmed some commercials. And Montel Williams, just they got a whole lineup of people from 30, 40 years ago cashing in on Medicare commercials. But anyways, it's been bad for the business because it's a service-oriented business. And the call centers have been all out there trying to produce as much as possible, which isn't a bad thing. But they never, and I don't think they ever will, understand the power and capability of retaining business. That's kind of why the agent exists. We create relationships with clients. They seek out professional help if we make ourselves available to help them. And even if they switch plans, they'll do it through us if we do a good job of servicing them. And when they switch plans, you still get paid the residuals, right? So it's still a powerful thing. AHIP, can I just hold out in the new AHIP? So AHIP is an additional requirement you need to sell Medicare Advantage. And it's about to renew for the 2023 year. I think probably 3 weeks, Brian. I just wait at this point. Otherwise, you're going to take that test again, and once is enough. Armin, hey, Dave, are we allowed to door knock random seniors' homes and mention Medicare? So it's a gray area. I would just not do it. I would be using leads that people request information on, and then using a compliance strategy in the home to get their permission to talk about Medicare Advantage. I wouldn't do random door knocking. That's definitely illegal. My take on it is maybe you could make it a gray area if you're cold calling for something else other than final expense or other than Medicare Advantage, and then they ask you about it. But the problem is the origination of the prospecting. If they see that their outcomes have all been Medicare Advantage, like your intent's not really to sell final expense, let's say it's to sell Medicare Advantage, I'd just stay away from it. Buy leads, be compliant, follow a compliant process. We teach you how to do that. Matthew, hey, what's up? What would you say the drop-off percentage of clients the average agent is each year? Matt, it's going to depend greatly on the servicing capabilities in which we're going to get into. I think if you do a good job setting up a follow-up program, really selling the service and following through on it, staying in touch with your people, I think you should retain 85 to 90% of your clientele. To me, 80% is too low because year over year, that has a profound effect on what you actually keep. Even a 5%, 10% difference in persistency year over year makes a dramatic difference in your ultimate retention. And that all comes down to how you take care of them after the sale. And part of it will depend on, are you going to the low-level D-SNP stuff? Are you doing LIS? Are you doing kind of a middle special election period type of strategy? There's kind of different ways to do it too. You're welcome, Armin. Thanks for the question. I meant to ask in national and forgot. Hey, John. When we go to a Medicare appointment, can we wear a button that says, ask me about burial and final expense insurance? You don't need to do that because there's no compliance against doing that. If you run a Medicare appointment, you can't sell another product until you set another appointment. There's no guidance on how long the appointment has to last or the length between appointments, but you have to technically be on another appointment. So you can always come back to them and talk about life insurance later at a different appointment, whether it's later that day or the next day. Okay, so let's get to scaling because that's really the purpose of this, but hopefully this is educational. The Medicare business is profoundly important. Let's talk about how to scale it. And the good news is that scaling to get 15 to 20 policies weekly like John Dean out in Kansas has done, or Evan McGuffey up in Nashville, or Adam Howard. He did 900, almost 1,000 plans, I think in 2019, maybe it was 2020. It's something that people have done. They've already laid the groundwork to making this happen. So what I'm about to describe to you is nothing new or profound. It's already been proven to work in multiple markets, and all you need is the tenacity and the desire and work ethic to make it work. So the first things first, if you're starting in Medicare, and you're brand new, that I wouldn't scale right away. What I would recommend you do instead is learn the business. Get comfortable with the sales process. Get comfortable with your clients. Understand how they think. Take time to just adjust yourself to the sales strategy as it stands. And then over time, maybe it's a multi-month process, maybe it's a year-plus process. Once you're consistent and there's no worries in your mind that you're going to be writing business, that every week you know you're going to be writing some kind of Medicare business, that's the time when I think you should feel comfortable with scaling up. Like, for example, Matt, locally here in Chattanooga, he wrote 87 out of 200 Medicare Advantage leads as Medicare Advantage clients. He's been doing Medicare Advantage, man, I think probably about 6 months. So, like, the fact that he's closed so many deals off of so few leads, like, that's a guy that I would say, let's go all in. Like, you're taking 20 leads a week, let's take 40 or 50, because I'd like to see you write, again, just do the math, half of his leads as business, because his numbers are there. And the thing to understand, too, is one of the nice things about scaling your activity is that your ratios, your production numbers and metrics should stay the same. There's very little that will change. We generally recommend agents who scale to get these kind of production numbers to keep the same kind of lead they're already working. So, for example, direct mail in Medicare is really king when it comes to Medicare Advantage sales, like we like to do, the special election period strategy. So we do more of that. We don't integrate Facebook leads. We don't come up with some newfangled idea. We don't start doing a little seminar marketing here, because what ends up happening is that you're not as dialed in and focused to one particular type of strategy. You may be in a different part of the state. You may have to take time away from working your leads that produce a higher net income per hour if you, let's say, do some kind of seminar marketing. So what I prefer an agent to do is just do what you started with and do more of it. In many cases with us at our agency, it's Medicare direct mail leads. So again, for example, a guy or gal starts at 20 leads a week. They're consistently writing business for a couple of months. They're fired up. They're excited. They're believers now that this business is for them, that they can see the big picture. That's when we're going to start to dial that lead flow up to 30, 40, 50, maybe even more. We've got agents doing close to 80 to 100 a week because that's what they want to do. They want to write 800 to 1,000 a year. It's possible with the lead flow and the work ethic. So that's when we just scale up what they've already done with the same lead, because the outcome to all this extra activity is just doing the same thing but more. Really, truly, the way that we teach scaling is you just do the same thing but more of it. It's nothing any more complicated than that. Obviously, the rub is that you're taking a big chance on yourself. You're putting a bunch of money down on leads, and there's always that fear and anxiety. But you have to take that leap of faith like you originally did when you got into the business. Now you're taking another leap of faith like, man, I'm about to buy a bunch of leads. Let's hope it works out. But that's what this business continually requires you to do to be successful. I remember thinking writing $4,000 in final expense premium one week was incredible. But once you hit that number, it's like running the 4-minute mile. It's like it can be done. Other people now believe it. Now it's accomplished. And then for me, the bar was set. Let's go 5, let's go 6, let's go 7, right? And that became the standard every week. And likewise, you'll see the same thing when you scale up in the Medicare business. Nathan, real quick here. Do you recommend buying leads? I absolutely do. So on the Medicare side of the business, again, it's an interesting business. I've gotten into this from the final expense side. And the mentality of a typical final expense agent and the mentality of a typical Medicare agent is different. The Medicare agent's more of what I would say comes out of hibernation, works 3 months out of the year, goes back to playing golf, fishes, whatever, takes care of their clients, but works really hard for a couple months, then kind of coasts the rest of the year. Whereas a final expense guy, of which we mostly integrate and move over to Medicare, they're grinding it out all the time. They're getting rejected, door slammed in their face, dealing with the normal stuff of the business, but they're in this whole process toughening up their spirit, toughening their skin up, developing their work ethic, and they're seeing fruits and success of their labor. And the beautiful thing is now is that mentality has been brought into the Medicare space from that final expense guy who is crushing it, coming now into the Medicare space. That's why we're seeing these kind of numbers that are unheard of in the Medicare space. So one of the things that we've followed through with this transition in taking agents from final expense to Medicare is the purchasing of leads. Now, there's always been agents in the Medicare space that have purchased leads, but a lot of them do referrals only. A lot of them, partner with the pharmacists or the doctors or the financial advisors, kind of like these traditional old school strategies, which work really well and are very good, don't get me wrong. But what I like to see is I like to have a control of being an exposure to opportunity. And the best way to do that is to invest in a lead program. Every business in America that's marketing based invests in some kind of lead program. We're running a Medicare business, so why wouldn't we do anything differently? We need to invest in leads to get in front of opportunity. And the beautiful thing about investing and building a Medicare business around purchase leads and marketing is you can scale that higher. And you can then, therefore, as you do more business, write more business and create more production and hit bigger numbers and get to those goals faster, as opposed to letting a sphere of influence process hopefully get you what you want. It's kind of out of your hands. It's up to them to refer it to you. I like the more proactive approach with buying leads. So we're a big proponent and supporter of that. So that's really it with the scale side. You do more of the same thing. It's really not any more complicated than that. Now, there are some things that I do recommend that you begin to consider. Evan McGuffey talked about this, and this is outsourcing some components of your business that people can do sort of kind of as well as you can, so that you can focus on what really matters. And I'll ask you guys in the audience, what is the most important activity for you as an insurance agent to do? What pays you the most money? Is it calling up admin work and checking on an application? Is it submitting an application? Is it doing service work? My belief is that your most important, highest income producing activity is being in front of qualified prospects, okay? the more qualified prospects you're in front of, the more likely you're going to make money. And the more profound the impact of your net income will be if you're in front of more and more prospects that are interested in what you're buying. So all of this is to say, and this is going somewhere, the point of this is that as you start to scale, your time must be, by default, because you have this tsunami of leads coming in, more and more devoted to what? Seeing the people, running the appointments, selling Medicare policies, right? That becomes, and it always has been, but even more becomes the most important activity you can do. So now you have almost evolved from just a salesperson to now a business person. That kind of comes with the scaling. You got to start looking at this business differently. You got to start trusting other people, finding people to integrate into your sales system to do some of the activities that you cannot do now because your time is so important to spend on your number one income producing activity, which is selling qualified prospects a Medicare plan. The first thing you should be outsourcing is the appointment setting venture. That is the easiest thing that there's competent help out there that you can pay a small amount for but get exponential returns on in quality of life and seeing more people. Adam Howard, for example, he had an appointment setter when he was running full-time when he wrote about 900 policies in 2020. And his appointment setter, I think if I remember correctly, would set 8 appointments a day. So he would book 30 to 40 appointments, see about 80 to 90% of them, and close half or whatever his numbers was. But he was not doing the appointment setting. Even though that's a very important skill to develop, in the long term, it's something you can pay people to do for you. And then free up that time you would have been calling to now run even more appointments to make that return on that investment, and then to basically think of that appointment setter as an asset who frees up your time. That, yes, it maybe costs $25 an hour to hire that person, but for every hour you make $200. So would you rather do a $25 an hour job or a $200 an hour job, right? So you got to start thinking this way, and you got to start letting go of controlling everything. And that's the first thing to go, in my opinion, that'll give you the best results whatsoever. Another thing you got to start thinking of, and we'll talk more about the service, is also employing or hiring or working with somebody to help execute your servicing goals of your agency. For example, my agent John, I think he wrote 500 plus plans last year, Medicare Advantage. He has an agent dedicated internally to following up with his clients on the Medicare side, making sure they're happy, following up multiple times, arranging letters to go out, follow-ups, that kind of thing, to stay in touch with them, to stay in front of them, to make sure they're happy and satisfied, and also to find the opportunities to cross-sell final expense as a way to kind of justify the expense on that investment in that agent. So the point is that, again, John, a scaled-up agent that's doing exactly what we described, has somebody in his office taking care of his people so that, again, he can approach and focus on the acquisition, and he now has somebody in the office helping focus on the retention side. And you cannot have a successful Medicare business without the retention side being dialed in, okay? But it is something you can outsource, absolutely. And you need to be thinking that, because if you're running 30 to 40 appointments a week, how in the heck are you going to talk to all of the clients that you accumulate? You might be able to in the beginning, but over time, it's going to be harder and harder and harder. It's going to start to degrade from your capability to get in the field and sell. You're going to find yourself hitting a ceiling on the amount of clients that you can actively maintain, and you're not going to get to your ultimate goals of mass level of policies on the books. So you're going to have to invest in help to help execute the service side of the business, okay? A couple of things from the chat here. Let's hit you up in the chat. Hopefully I got everybody's questions. Ace, what's up, Ace? Thanks for being here. Hey, Dave, I just got here, so I'm sorry if I've been asked already. If you start out in FE as you suggest, how long after seeing success would you recommend starting to also sell Medicare? Somewhere between 6 and 12 months is my recommendation. That's what I tell my agents. Here's the thing, though, and I've heard this from several agents over the last couple of years we've been doing this. The number one challenge in starting with final expense, migrating and doing some business in the Medicare space is moving too fast in the Medicare. Eric out of Virginia, he writes 40 policies a month. He started last year final expense. I think he was just shy of $200,000 in final expense business first year in the business. 50-year-old guy from the lumber business. He started Medicare and AEP, and the thing he told me on a sales training call we did with my group, he said the thing he regrets is moving too quickly into Medicare. If he could do it again, he said, I would rather start during AEP, doing 25. So if I did 4 days a week, 1 day dedicated to Medicare and the other 3 to final expense. But then I think over the next 6 months, starting to transition that percentage that much more. And he was very successful, very financially profitable. So my point here is, again, it's a slow, gradual move over to the Medicare space. Another example of that, Christopher Westfall, big on the Medicare supplement side, guy I've been friends with for years in the business, an incredible person, and very, very successful in Medicare. He started out in final expense, I think in 2009 in Jacksonville, Daytona Beach, something like that. And he started getting the Medicare supplements in 2010, 11, somewhere in there. Maybe Chris, I don't know for sure. But he slowly started the process of moving over for the same cash flow reasons. Remember, cash is king. Cash flow is even more king when it comes to the insurance business because you have to pay for your living expenses, your leads, and if you start Medicare too quick, that cash flow goes down and you're going to find immediate issues. Again, you can have a successful business, but if there's no cash flow coming in, you're not in business. If you don't have money to pay for and float while the business is being built, you're going to be out of business. A lack of cash has killed many a good businesses prematurely. So a couple of things here. I think that's pretty much the extent of that. I think we integrated the talk in on the service side. And I want to stress that, I think, because I know a lot of you out there are looking at this as final expense agents. You're curious of the Medicare side, or a life agent. You've heard about the Medicare business. You're wondering what's possible. The main thing I can stress with you as you scale your business up and as you get started, you should not just think about a strategy to acquire clients. You need to be thinking about a strategy to retain them. Retention is much more important than acquisition, okay? I know that sounds strange, but if you acquire one client and they last for 10 years, that's $2,900. If you acquire 5 clients and they last for 1 year, that's half that money. Now, what's better? Maybe you get the money up front faster, but you don't get the continual passive income that truly is what matters the most. So what I want you to think about getting into this business is, how do you set up a retention strategy so that people want to do business with you, not because you've got the extra $50 grocery card, but because the way you sell it is on you, that you care about your clients, that you want to take care of them, that you care about their welfare and their personal health, and making sure that they're getting the best of the best. You want to be that guy. You don't want to be another agent, hustling some grocery card deal. Some of these plans do that. You want to be the servicing, client-centric agent. That's the one who gets most business. And number 2, that's the one that retains the most. And it's not just pitching them and then disappearing. It's about pitching them and showing up again and again and again throughout the entirety of the remainder of their life, because you are going to be their agent. And that is good for them, and it certainly is good for you. And again, how do you do that? Things that you can do to scale. Hire somebody, bring an agent in, split some of the business with them, bring a normal person in who's not licensed, let them do the follow-up work, come up with a strategy that's automated or that can be outsourced to the person responsible for retention to follow up, multiple messages throughout the year, text follow-ups, client appreciation messages. Stay in front of your people. I can't stress that enough. That's how you get the kind of success you want to see in the Medicare space. And that's how you scale. So let's take some questions from the chat. This is a good time if you have some questions about scaling Medicare or anything in general about selling insurance. You can use the chat to do that. Let's take some questions here. Robert. Hey, Robert. What's up? Good to see you again. I was in Nashville at the Elite Agent Summit, eliteagentsummit.com. By the way, we will be in Atlanta August 26th and then Dallas September 23rd. More at eliteagentsummit.com. We'd love to have you there. It's $50 to attend. And the value is incredible for what little you actually spend. Robert, hey, I was in Nashville as well, and I have 2 things. Number 1, when will we get a copy of the slides? I'll send those out. I've been waiting for Luis to send me his slides. He sent me them, and I'm waiting on the videos to be published. That should be done today or tomorrow. My VA said that they'd be done. So as soon as that's done, it's going to be tomorrow, Friday at the latest. I reached out to find out about how to join 360. When should I hear back? Email me, Robert. I'll get you set up on contracting. When it comes to the Medicare side, you can deal directly with me. I'll get you hooked up. So just shoot me an email after this. I should reply to it later today, or worst case, first thing tomorrow. Tell you what to do. Tim, hey, do the cost of mailers vary between SEP periods and AEP? I'm sure the response rates do. Right now, we charge $35 for Medicare Advantage leads. But the nice thing about what we do is we have an optional lead subsidy program that will pay you $75 per Medicare Advantage sale. There is a requirement that you're captive with us just on the Medicare side for several years. It's optional. You don't have to do it. We do that to help offset the costs, but we need you to be committed like we're committed to you. And plus, these carriers, like I said earlier, I mean, I have an agent that he's getting $30,000 in lead money just in 3 quarters of the year. So, like, there's money available to offset some of this cost. And I'm of the persuasion, if you're a really successful agent, you should be paying very little to nothing for your leads. And that's as an independent agent, because there's so much money available that's made available to the agents. So it's a wonderful thing you just don't see in like final expense or mortgage protection. But our the costs are probably going to go up. You know, the thing in final expense, and we see this in any lead driven model, there's not so much competition like too many agents. There's too few prospects that are replying to the same leads. And when you send out a lead card and you got more agents sending out lead cards, there's a marketing saturation that's reached. And what marketing saturation does, there's still people interested, but it suppresses the response. I mean, think about Mildred, right? Our archetypal final expense prospect. She gets 8 direct mail cards in a month for final expenses. Is she going to send all 8 in if she's interested? Of course not. She's still going to do what she behaviorally always would do, which is send in 1, maybe 2. So the other 7 or 6 never get answered. So the overall average of response rates have dropped, which has driven the pricing up. That's going to happen in Medicare at some point. I'm not as concerned about it, simply because what you have in the Medicare space that you don't have in final expense is significant agency, IMO support, like what we do with lead subsidies, on top of, in addition to, growing financial support provided directly from the carriers in the form of lead subsidies, co-op money to offset a proven producer's production. And this is in the brokerage market where you don't have to do all your business with one company. So it's a bit different, but it's very good. And again, if you're really good at this business, you're writing consistently, I thoroughly believe you shouldn't be paying very much, if at all, anything for your leads. Do the cost, okay, answer that. You're welcome, Nathan. As John says, as the music industry told me, you can't keep doing it on your own. You need a team. Yeah. And that's true of so many businesses, right? We start off as small-time operators, just salespeople. We're doing really well. We grow, we mature, we see more opportunity, we learn to think bigger, and we have to face some realities as we evolve and grow, one of which is I could keep doing this thing on my own, or I could bring in a team to help offset some of these responsibilities so that I can continue to achieve my goals. That's a natural process we all go through. Some of us don't. Some of us stay lone rangers, and that's cool. But a lot of us get into the process of relying on more to help us achieve our vision and dreams, and that's certainly true of the agency side too. Hey, Micah, what's up? Do you see successful agents getting 15 to 20 sales a week by direct mail? Yeah, absolutely. So I mentioned earlier, you may want to check it out. I name drop a couple of people in our agency who have done this already, years in the past, or are currently doing it out of Michigan, Kansas, right here locally in Chattanooga, other places too, Dallas, Houston. There are absolutely the opportunity to crush it at that level. You just need to have the lead flow and the work ethic, and obviously the guts to invest the money that it takes up front to start it. Again, as you produce, you got to get in tight with your regional reps, the Medicare place, ask them how much they're going to give you to offset your expenses if they want to still see your business. And they've all got budgets. They'll work with you. They'll send you money. Let's see here. That's okay, yeah. John, did you misspeak, or is MA leads now $35? Yeah, they moved to $35 now instead of $25, again, because response rates in a lot of markets have gone up. But again, my recommendation here, you got 2 different options. That's the fixed price vendor that we have. We can also refer you to other vendors where you can pay per 1,000 and likely get a slightly lower cost per lead. But even so, John, if you're taking this, and I'm no reason to think you wouldn't, if you're all into this business and serious about consistent production, once you get some business on the books, these carriers are going to notice. You're going to talk to these regional reps. You should be getting lead subsidies from them to offset that. Not in addition to the lead subsidy program if you go through us. So I would not be as worried about the difference in price point on direct mail leads for Medicare, because if you do everything right and you produce, there's more than enough money to go around to offset those costs for you. Is there a way or a company who will add the agent's name and logo to the lead card to perhaps increase response? That'll actually reduce lead responses tremendously. So one of the things you got to learn about of any insurance lead generation is that what has always historically worked is a vanilla card that is blind to branding. It's a non-branded type of strategy. It's an enticement that sounds interesting. Not quite sure what it's about. Maybe it's a scam, but it sounds good. I'm going to send this card back to see what happens. A real good lead will walk that line and cause people to have their curiosity high enough that they'll send it back to see what happens. And many of these people know anyway, it's probably about Medicare or final expense or whatever kind of lead that you're using. But that truly has been the proven way for decades to generate leads successfully. What I have never really seen in some larger capacity, maybe on an individual basis, but on a large capacity in the final expense and Medicare market, is a branded agent focus. Nobody really cares about you. Again, I'll give you an example. I had an agent we tested, a really well-developed, you guys would be shocked, it was a real nice lead. It was 8.5 by 11 inches, okay, so like the size of a normal piece of paper. We dropped that during AEP. One side talked about final expense, one side talked about Medicare. I should do a video on this. I think I will. I have to dig that thing up. It was full color, glossy print, beautiful thing. I dropped $2,500 on it to test it on the agent. This guy's like really good, perfect person to help me guinea pig it. You know how many prospects he got from it? 0. Nothing. $2,500 down the drain. And why? I don't know. But we send these goofball leads out that have no indication of agencies or no indication of people or companies or carriers, and they crush it. They crush it, and they're much less expensive. So my point is, the whole kind of branded stuff is overrated in this business. I've tried it. I shouldn't have done it this time, but I did. And I did it years ago. I failed out of the business after I did that. It still didn't work then. The best thing is just not to do it. Just do what works. This stuff works really well. Peter, hey, is there an interpreter line for foreign language speakers? No, I don't know. I don't think so. Not at my business. If you're talking about getting people appointed for Medicare, I don't know. There probably is. Probably something like that. I'm just not aware of it. Any Spanish leads, Yellen? No, we don't have Spanish leads. You'll get people who speak Spanish to respond back to them, but you'll get English speakers too. I'm sure you could probably take the lead that we do, go to a lead house, translate it to Spanish, drop a Spanish speaking market, and probably do all right. And I'm sure somebody's doing it out there. We're really not. Cool. Okay. So, guys, we're going to wrap it up there. Hope this was inspiring on some level. Hope this is informative. I know a lot of people wonder about Medicare and what the opportunity is. And thank you, Tammin. That's very useful. Yeah. So we do have it, apparently. So I hope you enjoyed this training. We will be back tomorrow for more. I'm going to be talking about the worst final expense leads known to man. That should be entertaining if you care about final expense leads, and you should if you're a final expense agent. If you're interested in learning how to sell Medicare, we do it. Hopefully it's obvious by now. I've plugged myself shamelessly enough. Go to davidduford.com/FAQ. There's a section on there about Medicare. Click that link, and it'll explain everything we've talked about and more in detail. There's a video overview, written overview, what steps you have to take to get credentialed to sell Medicare Advantage, how the leads work, what the pros and the cons of the business are. And yes, if you do business elsewhere like final expense, annuities, you want to just do Medicare through us, we can absolutely facilitate and work with you on that basis only. So So the leads are mailed directly without the agent touching it. Yeah, basically. That's the idea, Brian, is you outsource it, right? Again, kind of like what we were talking about earlier. You let the marketing organization do the work. You just get the responses back and then call them and sell them. All right, guys, thanks for being here. Hope you enjoyed it. See you next time. Take care.